Layer effects. If you don't know what layer effects are, well, guess what, folks? Layer effects are effects on layers. If you hold a magnet over a layer, the effect that it has, no. So, layer effects. You've probably seen that little FX button down there at the bottom. Guess what? That's what we're talking about. Right there. Absolutely. And most of you know layer effects because of this absolutely awesome feature right here. And that feature is the drop shadow. Yes, of course, because everybody puts a drop shadow. So we slide all these sliders, click OK. Oh, drop shadow. What better way can we affect a layer? Well, there's a lot of other things that we can do to layer effects other than putting a drop shadow. Popular effect number 2, bevel and emboss. Yep. I know. So you go to effects here, you choose bevel and emboss on that layer, and you're like, wow. And you go ahead and you control the depth of that, and you're just amazed by it right there, and you choose the size, and you're just like, that is amazing. Incredible. Well, we don't have much more time, folks. We're running out of time. So then, of course, we have to go ahead and we have to put a stroke around it. Because if it isn't bad enough, let's put a stroke. Oh, yeah. Wow. Isn't that awesome? But in all seriousness, there's a lot of other things we can do with layer effects. So what we're going to do today is we're going to walk you through all the different layer effects that you can actually do. Bevel and emboss, stroke, inner, outer, glow, satin. Okay, you know, so I'm not very good with English. Okay. Color overlay, gradient overlay, pattern overlay, outer glow, and drop shadow. Well, we all know drop shadow, but you don't know drop shadow the way that we're actually going to show you the drop shadow. Because while this is all cool to do cool, funky stuff on here, there's a lot of things that you don't know about layer effects that we're going to show you. What I want to do is I want to walk you through layer effects just on a superficial level, show you what each one does, kind of the adjustments that we have, and then we're going to get into it pretty deep with all the things that you don't know about layer effects and how they can affect you well beyond. They can affect you for years. Yes, it's kind of like this nuclear effect. It just goes on forever. So first and foremost here, simply select my layer. And the great thing about layers effects is I can put them on anything. And I think there's this hot sauce commercial that we can put that on it, but yeah. I have shape layers here. So I've got this diamond shape layer. I've got this little flower. These are actual vector shape layers. Okay, and we're going to show you why a vector shape layer can work and how a raster shape layer can work, and all these things. It's just going to go all over the place, as if it doesn't already. So, one of the key things with layer effects, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to just change the color of the stroke here so we can get something more dramatic. Okay, so I've got a circle here, and I've gone in and I've just randomly put in a stroke, a bevel and emboss, and a drop shadow, of which in my layers panel, when everything is compressed, I see it like this, and I see my little effects right here on the side. I click on the little drop-down menu, and I get all of my items. I can turn on and turn off each and every element separately, and I can also turn off the entire layer effects right there and work with all those. I can edit any one of these by going in and just double-clicking on either the effects button or any one of my named effects. But here's the interesting thing with effects. Effects are going to be applied to every single pixel on that layer. So in this case right here, I just have the one circle on the layer. And these layer effects, no matter what I do to this layer, are going to affect absolutely everything. This is a pixel-based layer. So if I were to go in here with, say, my eraser tool or my paintbrush, I'm going to use my eraser tool, and I'm going to make it a nice hard eraser, and I go in and I erase, those layer effects are always going to conform to the pixels that are on my layers, okay? So when I go through and I do this, I can get really cool effects. And these are obviously dramatized from the bevel and emboss and the drop shadow. And this is really cool because vice versa too, if I decided to go in and use my brush and decide to go in and paint with my brush, and I'm going to make a harder brush right there, I could go in and of course create all these little kind of alien things with this as well. Layer effects are going to apply to the pixels that are on my layer. Not a problem. But I also have my shape layers too. And these shape layers are actually made with vector paths. And these are editable through using my pen tool and or my direct selection tool, my path selection tool right here, and I can actually go in and I can change these shapes. Now if I were to put some layer effects on here, I'll just do a quick bevel and emboss on this one, and there we go, I have my bevel and emboss. These are shape layers that are editable by going in and actually editing the points. So why would we use one over the other? Well, it all depends on the outcome. Usually if I'm going to be building something like a website and I have lots of components and I need to constantly change them, these shape layers, which I'm going to be doing a class on in a few days, is an easy way to go in and edit them. With my pixel-based layers, I have to use all of my pixel editing tools. Paintbrush, selection tools, eraser, to do anything. But the layer effects are simply going to affect every pixel that's on that layer, whether it be a vector shape or it be a raster shape. Either one.